Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Happy Wednesday. Seriously. Here we go again. I must be feeling better. Couldn't remember what day it was. Oh. Anyway, so professional. But yeah, I'm sorry. If you're looking for professional, you will not find that here. But also, I look like I have two horns on the top of my head. What is happening? Oh well. That's right. I felt like bangs today. So, not that you needed to know that, but we're going to talk about ageism today. Ageism. I have quite a few notes on this. So, why don't I just read my notes all the way through once my usuals come on, and then we'll we'll get going after that. But you know what? Let's pull an anywhere card, okay? This is an anywhere travel guide. It says 75 cards for discovering the unexpected wherever your journey leads. And I got these for my birthday, and I absolutely love them. I think they're great. So let's just pull one from the middle here. Middle. And it's kind of like just something to do, you know, wherever you are, whether you're home, whether you're away, you know, sometimes it makes it more exciting. You know, when you're traveling, they're technically travel cards. But so before I get into ageism, we're going to start this. All right. So eat something you haven't tried before. Notice if you like it or not. Try to figure out every flavor and separate them. Draw a picture that describes your experience. All right. And for those of you that aren't willing to be that daring today, let's try one more. And then we'll get rolling here. Interesting. I need to find something for the less chatty people in the world. Oh, here we go. Roundabout card. Choose the longest way today, the most inconvenient, difficult, and unnecessary. Notice the route and the obstacles. So, I'm not really sure how you would do that, but sure. You know, sure, why not? Just find the way you don't know. Good morning, older sibling. Welcome back. Again, if you guys could send some good juju to her, prayers, white light, all the good things. She threw out her back the other day, and I feel guilty because I'm not there to help her. So, you know, please send her all the good stuff. So, anyways, all right, here we go. Ageism. So, Not for me. Which part? The food one? Oh no, the route. Wait, which one? I know older sibling says not for me. I'm guessing I don't think it's the route one because she does that normally without trying. Finds the hard way around when out and about. She is directionally challenged. But maybe it's the food one. Try something you haven't tried yet. But anyways, I digress. All right. So the other day I was trying to think of something to talk about. And, you know, I mean, it's like I said, I have a ton of different topics in here. There's even one about a Hawaiian lady I'd like to talk about one day, but I want to be a little bit more in my mind when I talk about her. Because as you guys know, I'm kind of still all over the place. My brain cells are still repopulating, and for being coughed out or catching the virus that I had. Good morning, Muddy. Oh, I know. Are you having trouble? You know what? I was reading something the other day that said there were solar flares that are happening right now. So if you believe that, you know, I mean, you don't have to believe it. There are things that actually happen, but it can affect the electricity and the energy around us. So, you know, it could be that. So, you know, if your technology doesn't work, just blame solar flares, whether they're happening or not. 9 times out of 10, I don't think anyone's going to look it up anyway. So anyways, you didn't miss much. All we did was do a travel anywhere card, because I figured you were trying to get on, but, and it was like, take the long way or eat something you've never tried before. Okay. So, anyways, like I said, I have a ton of subjects, but I was reading an article yesterday morning, because, you know, I belong to AARP, and, you know, Just as a side note, I have to tell you, I was a little annoyed, okay, because I waited till I was 50 to, to get AARP, and I was like, yeah, I can get AARP now. It's like this, I don't know, it's kind of like a milestone, in a person's life. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, if you're 45 and up, and it's like, you know what, fuck you all, okay, because, now you can be 45 and get, screw you. So, but anyways, whatever. I know. It's going to get a little dicey, I guess, with the language today, because that one just flew right out of me. But, yeah, see, Sammy says, works for me, I'll blame the solar flares. Blame the solar flares. Why not? Why not? Oh, yeah, and last night, I actually learned what St. Elmo's fire is. I thought it was just a movie. Turns out it is a natural phenomena that is pretty cool. And, maybe we'll talk about that one day, because that was pretty wild. But when I was reading about it, it's like, wow, nature's crazy, but amazing. It's like, Mother Nature likes to do magic tricks. She's a magician. But anyway, it's going to be one of those shows. Ageism. So anyways, like I said, I opened up an article and it was about Meryl Streep. Okay. So, The Devil Wears Prada #2 is coming out, and she's doing her whirlwind tour through all these different cities. It sounds like she's going to the fashion cities, but I'm not really sure. But she had a couple of great quotes in Japan. Okay, now she's 76 years old. She's still, running hot. Like just, like she's just on the longest career marathon that, people can just dream of in any career that they're in. And she's enjoying it. But what I loved about it was all the, they showed some of the pictures and all the vibrant colors she's wearing, all the cool stuff she's wearing. And as I read the article, they started talking about ageism. Now, that Meryl Streep is quite the activist for a lot of different things, and I love it. She always champions women's causes and really tries to remind people that women belong on the forefront with everybody else, okay? And you know what I mean, with men. All right. And there's a lot of male and female people out there fighting for equality for women in this particular industry. So kudos to all of you and hats off to all of you. One of my favorite actors does too. So it's like, yay, good for you. Glad to see you're on the right side. But, anyway, not that there's a right side or a wrong side. Some people just choose to be quiet about it. But I do like the people that just step up and champion the cause, because women sometimes get treated like, we're nothing more than a birthing machine. Now, and for those of us who didn't have kids, you grow up thinking, oh my God, what is my life worth because I never had children? And then you realize, wait a minute, but for all the people that, they sit there and go, well, women are just meant for this, that, and the other. Do you know how hard some of that stuff is? Do you? I never had kids. I've never been married. But, I know people who have. I know people who, who sit there and they do all these things. I was very fortunate in my family that it was very kind of an equal partnership. My parents split a lot of the responsibilities, like every other month they pay this bill, every other month they pay that bill. I don't mean every month they would switch off every other month. When it came to chores, everybody did something. When it came to cooking, everybody did something. Most of the time it was my mom, yes. And my mom preferred it that way because she enjoyed that. But my dad did cook from time to time. Or, they would just decide, well, do you mind cooking tonight? And sometimes nobody wanted to do it. So we went out or we got takeout. That was why McDonald's used to be a treat. Now it's not. But when you become an adult, everything becomes more accessible and less of a treat. But yeah, so it always worked out that way. So I didn't really grow up around that. I didn't really understand the pay disparity. I didn't understand, how, someone like Clint Eastwood can just be revered for his entire career, but women are still struggling in this business to get that far, and nothing against Clint Eastwood because I love Clint Eastwood. Don't tell my dad, but I think he kind of edges out John Wayne in my book of like cowboy people. Okay, just a little bit, because I love John Wayne, all right? The guy was definitely flawed in a lot of his beliefs, but damn, he makes a good movie. But, Clint Eastwood too. So anyways, enough about the men. But it's not just that. So really, I think this is more about ageism, but I think it's more about ageism with women. Okay, so I'm going to read all of this. I have like 2.5 pages of notes, but I want to read it and then we'll talk about it. Now, I didn't write down the article. I just took excerpts of it. So if it feels disjointed, I apologize, but we'll go over each one. Actually, you know what? Since it's so long, let's just go little by little. Okay, we'll just take it one thing at a time instead of doing the usual read through and then going back through it. So ageism, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, prejudice or discrimination against a particular age group and especially older adults. Now, somebody did say this in one of the articles I was reading. They say that ageism is ingrained in more people than racism and sexism. Okay, now we know there are racists out there. We know there's misogynists out there. But to know that this is a mindset in everybody, it's kind of like, And, okay, and so I know, here we go. Okay, don't make fun of me. But again, Dad and I have been binge watching The Waltons, which is a show from the 70s. But here's the interesting thing. They even covered that in the 70s. The show ended, I think, in 81 or 82. So it went through basically the decade of the 70s. But to be talking about it even then, with grandma and grandpa, not just grandpa, not just saying, oh, why you're putting me out to pasture, but grandma too. Like, I can do this, I can do that, don't treat me like I'm old. And they even cover, so this has been a problem. This has been an issue for centuries, because the minute it seems like somebody turns 50, they're suddenly old. Now, 200 years ago, that was probably the case, because not everybody lived to be old. I mean, Harriet Tubman living into her 90s is like phenomenal, right? Because that didn't happen to everybody. I'm pretty sure she lived into her 90s. If nothing else, she lived into her late 80s. But in my opinion, because I didn't look this up and I didn't even think about it till right now, the age, people died young. But 55, if somebody died at 55, it's like, oh, they lived a long, good life. But, right? I mean, last night I had an epiphany. I'm 53. I was sitting there and I was doing math about something and I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God, I'm 53? When did that happen? For some reason, I thought I was still 52 for about 10 minutes. Because I don't think about my age, And I know a lot of people would think that sounds goofy, but I don't. I have seen so many people throughout my life that just don't want to celebrate age. They look at it as being not a good milestone, but a sad one. I knew someone who got physically sick because people were teasing her about turning 30. And that annoyed me, because it's like, you know what? This is your 30th birthday. It's a big round number. And my dad has always been amazing at celebrating the big round numbers, right? My mom didn't want to celebrate her 40th birthday. And then when I see people that turned 50 before me, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to be 50. And me, I feel like my life started at 50. I mean, I'm serious. I feel like my life started at 50 because I got all that shit from before out of the way. I mean, when I walked into 50, I was like, yeah, I was so ready to be done with my 40s. You would not believe it. Everyone's like, you're kidding, right? Not everyone, but a lot of people are like, you're kidding, right? It's like, no, I'm not kidding. My 40s were rough. My 40s were really, really rough because it was my entire healing journey. I lost my mom in my 40s. At the beginning of my 40s, I lost Sissy Joe. I lost one of my coworker besties. It was a rough go. Then there were things happening around me that, to other people that I care about, and all this while also doing a healing journey, because that's where a lot of my therapy came from. In fact, when I went to therapy at 50, which ironically started on my 50th birthday, I just told them, I said, I feel kind of stuck. It's like I'm so looking forward to this decade, but I feel so stuck. And I need someone to help unstuck me. So there you go. So I haven't really always thought about ageism. It hasn't always been something that's been in the forefront of my mind, even though I think we all might fall into that trap of treating people who are older than us like they're invalids. And they're not. Yes, we worry. Yes, we get concerned. But we just have to trust the process, and we have to go with the flow. There was also a scene in The Waltons where they have this one actress, Maud Gormley, That's her name in the show. And she is so cute. Her name is Mary Earl or Early. I don't know how you pronounce her last name, but she's adorable. She reminds me of the little old lady from the Tweety Bird and Sylvester cartoons, right? The little bun in her hair, the glasses, just walks with a waddle a little bit. But her son was like, this woman ran all the way to her neighbor's house to hide in their barn from her son. And he wants to put her in a home because he's afraid that she's going to fall down and hurt herself. I mean, she literally went up the mountain and hid from him. And then, and eventually she escaped from the home, and he let her stay in her home. But that was ageism, because we get so worried about our parents that it's almost like we're putting them in a glass bottle. We're putting all of our old people in glass containers, like a museum piece, just to be looked at and not to be utilized. But there's so much history in them. There's so much of everything in them. Sometimes we see old people and we're like, oh, they look lonely. I don't want to sit down and talk to them. But you can learn so much from just sitting down next to anybody and just listening. But we got to move past the ageism to do that. So now we're going to move into ageism and women. All right. Ageism is so this is from Google, as one of my friends put it, Google University. This is from Google University. All right. So I like to give credit where credit is due, because, sometimes I just need a little bit of help, and I'm not going to sit here and take credit for somebody else's work. And Google, whoever designed this software program that helps me find things super easy, thank you. I appreciate you, and I show supreme gratitude. So anyways, ageism is a phrase coined by Robert Butler in 1969. It involves negative attitudes towards aging, discriminatory practices, and institutional policies that marginalize people, primarily affecting older adults, but also impacting younger people. We'll get to that in a second, because that is an actual case. But I have found in my job search how hard it is, because, it's like all these places say, we saw your resume, we reached out to you. Then the minute they find out how old you are, they stop talking to you. And it's just like, seriously? So all my skills mean nothing to you, right? Okay, fine. So there are different types of ageism. Ageism manifests in three forms: personal stereotypes, your attitudes; discrimination, which is behaviors; and institutional policies that disadvantage older people. Right. One of my, I don't want to name names, but one of my closest friends, their father was an airline pilot, and they retired him at a certain age. Now, this is a person who, completely cognitive, excellent pilot. I think they should give you cognitive tests, or maybe put you on shorter flights to see how that works, but I don't think you should be forced into retirement. And I get it, because it's an airplane, and you're flying a bunch of people and you're responsible for them. But I think if you're 65 years old and you're showing signs of life still, I don't see the problem. I really don't. So there is a level of ageism, and they're going to hide it behind, well, we have to think about the safety of our passengers, despite the fact that people of all different ages have plane malfunctions. So anyways, the attitudes of people, yes, there's stereotypes. Oh, well, you're old, so you must be, dumb and not useful. Absolutely not true. Somebody that older sibling used to know, why can I not think of his name? Because Laura always calls him Papa. But he was an actor, and he was a character actor. But this dude didn't start acting until he was like in his 50s or 60s. And he literally went for a 3-mile run the day he died, and he was in his 80s. So Laura, I know you know his name. So, Oh, older sibling, and Muddy said, I keep thinking I'm in my 20s. And Sammy says, in my head, I'm in my 20s too. Yeah, I feel that way sometimes until my bones creak. But that's just, I've had so many injuries over the years. I just blame it on that. But yeah, sometimes I forget how old I am. And there was a time when it's like, oh my God, I'm this age. And then all of a sudden it's just like, you know what? Something just clicked in me, and it's like, I don't freaking care. I literally forgot. So I'm going to side quest for a second. Okay. The reason I was counting my age is because I was watching this really short snippet of an article of a girl in 1957. She lost her purse. Well, apparently it fell between the lockers, because you know how sometimes you put shit on the top. And, it just falls. And it fell in between, and it was lost for like 60 years, or 50, I think they said 52 years. Or 62 years. It was lost for 62 years, or something like that. I don't know. But Bert Mustin, that was Papa. Thank you, older sibling. Bert Mustin. Yeah, look him up. He's adorable. He's just that guy that you just look at and you want to hug. But anyways, like I said, character actor died decades ago, but still, just, he redefined age in a way. He blew ageism out of the water. But anyways, so this woman lost her purse, and I was trying to figure out how old she was, and I'm like, oh, in 2013 they found this, and I was like 40. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was 13 years ago. How could I be 40? Because I'm only 52. And then I'm like, oh my God. So I sat there for like 30 seconds going, oh my God, I'm 53. And then I remembered that I'm 53 because it's only 2 more years until the senior discount. And I don't even know if I'll use them, but the fact that they're mine, I'm ready for it. So anyways, that being said, sorry about the gardener outside. I can't do anything about that. But anyways, when it comes to employment, hiring, firing, or denying, healthcare, patronizing older and sometimes younger patients in the assumption that illness is just part of aging. Now, this is where I have a problem with doctors when it comes to younger people as well. I was born with a congenital heart defect. It has since been repaired. You can see my scar. I was 3 years old. Don't remember a thing. My poor parents went through a lot when it came to that. They suffered more than me, to be honest. But when my dad had his heart attack in 2007, I went to my doctor and I said, I really need to get my heart checked because I know I don't really take care of it. I drink caffeine like, it's an IV coming out of a tap. And, and sugar. I drink soda like, it's water, basically. And he's all like, oh, you're young. You're fine. Don't worry about it. So I was 34 at the time. But I was like, I've known people in their 30s or even their 40s or early 50s that have had heart attacks. And it's like, And so I decided to reschedule my appointment. And I went to a different doctor. Turns out this doctor was the head of the department. But he ran me through all these tests. He listened to my concerns. And he told me, I'm glad you came in. I'm glad you're checking this out because you have a valve that could affect your heart in the long run because your valve is repaired. It's not replaced, it's repaired. So if I had just listened to this doctor and not thought anything of it, because he says, well, you're young, don't worry about it. I'm sure you're fine. And it's like, he just kind of blew me off. And because he looked at me thinking, well, you're too young to worry about that. And I told him I had a congenital heart defect. No, you're fine. I mean, literally, I just felt like I really wasn't seen. And fortunately, my gut instinct and older sibling told me to find a new cardiologist. She's all, find a new one. You need to make sure. If you have that instinct, you need to make sure. So I did. And like I said, turns out then I ended up with a specialist. And that's the specialist that's in LA. And he's been taking care of me ever since. So, and I'm grateful. I'm super grateful for that because, and the weird thing is he's a pediatric cardiologist. You know what it's like sitting in a pediatric cardiologist thing when you're like 50 years old in their waiting room with all these kids. But, oh yeah, the doctor at Placentia Linda. But that was a different case. That wasn't ageism. That was just him being an asshole. But that was older siblings doctor. We'll talk about that another time. I think that's something else we should talk about, right? The way we look at people. And that's a good show for another day. I think we've talked about it before, but it's still something I want to go over because I think it's important, especially in the medical field. But yeah, so anyways, it turns out that it was a good thing I did go back. But that's ageism towards the young, and sometimes we look at young people and think, well, you don't understand, or you don't know, or you don't this, or you don't that. And it's like, how do you know? How do you know what they're feeling? You don't. So ageism can go in two directions, though 9 times out of 10, I know, me and my 9 times out of 10, right, because I was young? What? Which doctor are you talking about? Sorry, older sibling says, yes, it was because I was young. The doctor at Placentia, I don't know. You've had so many problems at that particular hospital. I don't know which one you're talking about. But anyways, Oh, no, 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 no. That wasn't ageism. That was him thinking that I know which one you're talking about. You're talking about the CRPS guy. But, no, that was not because you were young. That was because he was an asshole and you had walked in the heat somewhere, were a little disheveled, and he automatically made a personal assumption about you because you were in so much pain. So, yeah, that's definitely a show for another day. In fact, if you'll excuse me for a moment, I'm going to write that down because I really want to talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow because that's a soapbox one. That one really pissed me off. But in a way, the people across the way definitely was ageism. So we're going to save that. Well, the older couple got the attention because she was dressed to the nines. But yeah, that wasn't age. That was him just being a dick. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow because we'll also apply ageism to that. So couple getting attention. Yeah. Because I was fully coherent for that one. And by that, it's not anything against older sibling, but older sibling was really, really in pain. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Ooh, I get to jump on my soapbox tomorrow. Yeah. So anyways, let's keep going with this one. So yeah, the hiring, firing, or denying of promotions and stuff. And a lot of times they don't want to hire you because they think you're just going to up and leave. You know, there are good companies that will just say, well, you know, we have you for the time we have you. So anyways, this is what Meryl Streep had to say. At a press conference in Japan, Meryl Streep made an explicit statement after sharing that she is happy to represent. Often women over 50, I'd say, disappear into the woodwork. Their interests and opinions are less valued in our culture. So it's fun to see this person who is credibly placed in the world and having influence. I'm assuming she's speaking of her character in The Devil Wears Prada, Miranda Priestley, because, you know, this is a woman who's based on Anna Wintour. And she's like, is it Vogue or Cosmo? I think it's Vogue that she's the head of. And I mean, it's loosely based. Loosely based, right? I think it's loosely based on a book that someone who used to work for her wrote. But she's a very powerful person, you know, and she really kind of does influence the fashion industry. But she's also older. So to know that there's somebody out there that is still having this huge influence, and then, you know, so much so that someone made a movie, not technically about her, but just about the industry she's in, and a woman of age being in charge, says a lot, you know. But what I loved is that they didn't dumb down Meryl Streep's tour, you know, press tour outfits. They put her on the red carpet, and not because of the character she played, because this is who she is. She is this vibrant human being, and they're highlighting that with the outfits that they're putting her in. These beautiful, wonderfully coordinated outfits, you know. And I mean, if you want to wear all black, wear all black. I don't care. I wear all black a lot. I love black. That's one of my favorite colors of clothing, or tones, or whatever you call it, to wear. But, you know, going into the whole clothing thing and going to the whole ageism thing, I remember a couple years back on Thanksgiving during the halftime show for the Cowboys game. So, you know, the Cowboys and the Detroit Lions always play their own separate games on Turkey Day here in America, and here in the United States. So anyways, Dolly Parton was a halftime show, and it's kind of like a Super Bowl show in a way, okay? And she comes out, and she's wearing a Dallas Cowboys uniform. Now, a lot of her critics are like, she is way too old to be wearing that. First of all, she fit in it just fine. She looked fabulous in it. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, wow, good for you. It's like, if I could fit into that, I would totally do it, even though I hate the Cowboys. Sorry. But yeah, I just remember some of her critics going, well, that's inappropriate because she's too old to be wearing that. And it's like, why? You know, I mean, and this is ageism. This is ageism. This is us putting a stamp of disapproval on something because someone is of a certain age. If Dolly Parton was 30 years old, nobody would give a shit that she was wearing it. Okay? They'd just be like, oh, look at Dolly. She's up there doing this, and she looks great in that outfit. And the woman is probably still the same size as she was when she was 30. She's tiny. Okay? She's tiny. And she rocked it, and, older sibling says she's wearing Prada on her press tours and openings. Well, that makes sense. But at the same time, Prada makes a lot of different colors. So they're coordinating her outfits, not as Miranda Priestley, but as Meryl Streep. And that was the point of the article. So anyways, so I was just kind of like, I just kind of agreed to disagree, and it was just kind of like, wow, and it's okay. Other people are allowed to have their opinions, but it really made me realize how younger thinking I am, where it's like, I don't care. I have a friend that was sitting there going, yeah, I still wear concert t-shirts and leggings. And she's all, I'm in my 60s. And it's like, who cares? Wear what you want to wear. If it's you and it represents you, then wear it. I don't care. If you're 55 years old and you want to wear a blouse that hangs off your shoulder and shows your bra strap, wear it. Who cares? Who cares? Don't worry about what the critics think. Don't worry about what other people think. Just do what makes you happy. Okay, do what brings you joy. If you want to feel sexy in that hot dress, or that, or you're a dude that wants to dress in, like without wearing, like those loafers, without the socks and, this and that, with the jacket, without a shirt, whatever you want to do, I don't care. Do it. Make yourself happy. If that brings you joy, do it, because your joy needs to come from in here, not from somebody else judging you outside. Okay? Because a lot of times maybe they're just judging you because they don't have the courage to do that. A lot of times it's exactly what it is. They don't have the courage to step outside of their own, thoughts to be who they want to be. So the next thing was from anti-ageism activist Ashton Applewhite says it perfectly. She's encouraging women to take up space with confidence. She is. She's encouraging women to take up space with confidence. Right now, Meryl Streep is like the aging woman's go-to person to just feel inspired by. See? Even Muddy. My usual daily outfit, concert t-shirts and leggings. I wear them to church. That's awesome. See, that's the kind of church I need to belong to if I ever went back to church. It's like, I remember my mom used to, it's like, you are not wearing jeans to church. And it's like, why? Put on a dress. But Carla Rockmore, a fashion designer, also says, by dressing so boldly, Meryl Streep is rejecting the premise that women of a certain age must style themselves with a whisper rather than a roar. It's a power move. So again, she's rejecting the premise that women of a certain age must style themselves with a whisper rather than a roar. It's a power move. And it's a power move because she's owning it. She's wearing it with confidence. She is just going out there and saying, look at me, world. I'm showing women that they don't have to fall into ageism, that they can just be whoever they want to be at whatever age they are. You want to wear your concert t-shirts and your leggings? Absolutely. I would pair it with a pair of Doc Martens. I don't have a lot of concert t-shirts, I admit. So, but I mean, 9 times, here goes my 9 times out of 10 again. 8 times out of 10. A lot of times I will wear my Doc Martens. The only time I don't wear them is when I'm just being lazy and I don't feel like putting them on. And that's legit. I'll put on my slippers, which are my flip-flops, but I'm Hawaiian, so we call them slippers. So anyways, AARP, and this is what really got me. AARP's research backs this up. The Mirror study, which has tracked women's perspectives on aging and beauty since 2018, found that the understanding of beauty expands and deepens with age, a conclusion drawn from surveys of thousands of women across generations. The most recent edition, released in 2025, found that women grow into their authentic selves as they age, but that media representations have failed to capture that authenticity. Streep's tour, seen through this lens, is not just a fashion moment, it's a corrective. It's a corrective. And I understand what they mean by that because it's very true. I don't know about other women, but in my own life, having been through my own healing journey and having healed all that crap that I carried around for far too long that weighed me down like, like Atlas, right? Carrying the world on his shoulders or on his back. And it was my own personal stuff. It was just stuff that was so comfortable that it was more comfortable being in the pain than it was comfortable, moving through the healing to get to a better place. And after you do that, it's like freedom, right? It's like being a dog on a leash, and then all of a sudden your person takes off the leash part and you're just running. You're just running. You're just all over the, like, yeah, wagging your tail, just being super duper happy, right? Like, oh, I'm at the dog park. But I mean, it's exactly that. It's just feeling this sense of freedom when you let go of all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that starts at 50. There's a lot of people with a lot of unhealed trauma and a lot of unchecked trauma that will carry this to their graves because they don't think they need to heal it, or they live under the notion that you just push it down and deal with it. You don't, or you push it down and you don't deal with it anymore. You just push it aside. And of course, as we know, those things still manage to come up and out. So that being said, excuse me, that being said, sorry, I got a little bit of dry mouth here. I'm not happy with that coffee this morning. But that being said, I think there's so much that we can say about that. I mean, I think when we hit a certain age, that's what I was saying. We'll just use 50 as a marker, right? Like the halfway point, potential halfway point of life. So many people are afraid of hitting 50. Because a lot of people are raised with, well, once you hit this age, you're old and you're not useful and you're not this and you're not that and you're a blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And that's not true. That is absolutely not true. You have, I'm not sure she's acting anymore, but you had, Dame Judi Dench, right? Or Maggie's, or Dame, I think Maggie Smith was a dame. But, you had them acting into their later ages, right? And, rest in peace, Maggie Smith. But Judi Dench, wait, is she still alive? Someone please tell me. I mean, I hate to say that, but so many people have passed away in the last couple of months. It's kind of like blown my mind. But I hope she's still alive. But I know that because of her eyesight, she had to stop acting for a while. Or had to stop acting. In fact, towards the end of her acting career, a lot of people were having to feed her lines. So, well, yes, which? That she's still alive? And I'm sorry, I don't mean that in a mean way, and I don't mean that with ageism either. It's just because I love her. I love Judi Dench. She's one of my absolute favorites. Just so, I don't know. I just love her. She's just amazing. But these are people who refuse to just stop. But also, look at some of the roles that we give people. Oh, thank you, older sibling, still alive. But look at some of the roles that we give people, right? Like you have someone, again, we're going to use Clint Eastwood as an example, doing movies where, he's, just this old man driving a truck, right? The Mule. I never saw it, or the other one where I can't remember what it was called. It was a decent movie, but, just kind of, and the women fawning over him and having a crush. And it's like, and we think, okay, that's okay. Okay, there you go. Sammy says Judi Dench has quit acting because of her sight, which we mentioned, but she's still alive and still occasionally does some appearances. Okay, perfect. Thank you both. Thank you both for that. And Dame Judi Dench, wherever you are in this world, I apologize. I really do, because I really want her to live forever. Like, legit want her to live forever. I don't know if she wants to, but I want her to. She will live forever in my heart. But look at the role disparity. Right? And then there's still that whole, just on a side quest again, how women still make less than men. I was reading an article the other day about Diana Rigg. Was it Diana Rigg? Right? That was her name, right? The one that played Emma Peel in the Avengers. And of course later she played the head of the House of Tyrell in my Game of Thrones memory is flying out the window. The show's been off the air so long. But anyways, she found out she was making less than the cameraman on the Avengers. And it's just kind of like, And so she called them out for it. And everybody painted her as the villain. But why? Why do we value women so much less than we value men? Somebody brought up a very good point. Men say, well, I'm going out there and I'm earning this and I'm earning that. But they're all, if you were single, you would still be doing the same thing. Except you'd be cleaning your house and making your own food. Right? But a lot of women are pigeonholed into this domestic mold. And some people love it, and that's fine. I don't have any problems with that. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom and wife and all those things, that's great. That's your dream. That's something you love to do. But I don't think as a society we should do that to everybody, because it's a personal choice. Like a woman who says, I want to go and be a CEO of a company or start my own company, versus a woman who says, I want to be a stay-at-home mom because I love being a mom and I love being a wife. That's fine. Those are choices. These are choices women make, and they should be able to make them. They shouldn't be forced into thinking a certain way because you have misogynistic men out there who say, nope, sorry, that's the men's job. No, fuck that. It is not. It's a human being's job. All right. And yeah, older siblings said they thought that Diana Rigg was being greedy. I don't think she's being greedy. Sure, it was the 60s, but damn, seriously? The woman was pulling her weight on that show. All right. And eventually she left to go back to theater, but that's fine. But when it comes to ageism, we really have to start rethinking all this. Okay. Like literally. I love that Meryl Streep is blowing age out of the water. I love all the people around me who blow age out of the water. There are times when I sit there and go, oh my God, I'm so old. And like my cousins will sit there and go, no. Good support systems are good to have. I do know that even older sibling and I mean, there's a lot of times we just forget how old we are. We're being goofy, or, even out in public, we'll be goofy, or we're laughing loud, and, people, it's like, a lot of times if we know we're going to be meeting up with a friend, we'll sit outside because we tend to get loud. I laugh loud. I can't help it. I do try to contain it, when necessary, or to be aware of my surroundings, but not always easy. But I think too, when we get to a certain age, we've talked about this before about the men who buy the sports cars or who, whatever. I think a lot of it is just, I think they get to a certain point in their life where they stop worrying about what other people think. Right. And I think that's where women get to. A lot of times people will say, well, women are getting saucy and why are they so cranky? And I think they're cranky because they don't want to be put on a shelf to be looked at. They want to be utilized. They want to be a part of this world. They want to sit there and go like Meryl Streep. Hey, look at me. I don't want to just, what did she say? That often women over 50, I'd say, disappear into the woodwork. Get out there, be loud, be proud, be who you are. We live in an age now where so many women before us have come and set out the carpet for us to walk down. And I think we should honor them by doing that. Whether it's someone who at the time was out there fighting for women's lib in the 70s. And I know a lot of people kind of get this way or that way about women's lib. I think at one point women's lib was so black and white. It's like, either I want to be a full-blown housekeeper or I want to be a full-blown women's liberation person. But there is a thing in the middle. I don't need anyone to take care of me, but it is always nice when someone opens the door for me, and not that I wouldn't, but there's a lot of times when, I'll be going in to a store and I'll see a family come in and I'm holding the door open for them. And the gentleman will come behind me and hold the door open and say, ladies first. And it's like, oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's not because, he said ladies first. It's because he took the time to hold the door. All right. And, and it's just kind and sweet, because, we do want to feel like a girl, but we don't want people to pigeonhole us into a certain stereotype. And that's what I love about Meryl Streep. She's, on this press tour, since we're talking about her, because I know there's a lot of women who do this across the board, who refuse to be pigeonholed into a certain stereotype. But she's just shattering these stereotypes. And sure, she has the help of a stylist to do it for her, but she's just out there going, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's own our age. You can grow, you can age gracefully, physically, but I think we should age roaring, figuratively and mentally. I think we should embrace every year that we get. Whether you're 25 years old or you're 65 years old, every year is a gift. I've known too many people who have and never will make it to 50. My mom never made it to 70. She didn't even make it to 65. She came close, but she didn't. And, oh no, wait, I'm sorry. She did. She was 66 when she passed. I apologize. She never made it to 70. So, I don't know why I thought she was 64. I don't know. But anyways, okay, I apologize. My mom she never made it to 70. All right. But I've watched my dad over here turn 70, 75, 80. He'll be 81 this year. I've watched myself turn 50. I'm 45, 50, 53, 53. And I did it all without my mom. And even this year, older sibling is, she's not struggling with her age this year, but she's struggling with the fact that she's going to be the same age that her mom was when she passed away. And I can see that, I'm not there yet. I still got, at least a decade or so to go, a decade and a bit to go before I get to that. But nothing's promised. Tomorrow isn't promised. So whether you're a man or a woman, don't let people pigeonhole you. Or, I should say, whether you're a man or a woman or however you identify across the board, okay? And I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean however you identify. Don't let people put you into a mold. Go out there and be yourself. If you want to wear that Dallas Cowboys outfit, go out and wear it. You want to wear those concert t-shirts and leggings to wherever you go out and do it. You want to wear your sports gear wherever you go out and do it. Don't worry about what other people are going to think. As older sibling always told me, and as the famous saying goes, what other people think of you is none of your business. Diana Rigg did it. In the 60s, she called out, she called it out. She called inequality out. And she got called greedy for it. And she didn't give a shit. She's all like, nobody backed me up. Nobody did this, that, or the other. But I knew I was right. And she was right. And she had a long, long career. Long, illustrious career. She did what she wanted to do. Meryl Streep. Obviously, one of the premier actresses in the world. Very well known by everyone on pretty much every continent. I'm pretty sure the penguins in Antarctica know who she is. But... Santa probably knows. He's probably got a sneak peek of The Devil Wears Prada too up there with all the little elves and Mrs. Claus. So, but she's using her voice to champion women. And people will say, well, she can do whatever she wants because she's rich or she's that or she's famous. No, she's telling you, I am not going out with a whimper. I'm going to go out with a bang. And I mean, she's obviously not going out yet. But what I'm saying is that she's just going to plug away until she decides she's either going to stop or she dies. Whichever one. But like I said, nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. The rest of my day is not guaranteed. So every birthday that I have, every year, my parents always made my birthday special. And I thought it was because I was an only child. But as I got older, without it being spoken, it was because I was still alive. Because at 3 years old, I had a 50-50 chance of surviving my heart surgery. I didn't know that till I was older. And when my mom said that, they wanted to wait till you were 5 years old to have your surgery, but if they did, you would probably have died. She's all, we had to take that chance. And like I said, I would have never known. I was 3. I remember some things from when I was 3, but I certainly don't want to, certainly don't remember that. But I realized later that all my birthdays were made special because I'm still here. And I think a lot of times maybe they were celebrating the fact that they still had a kid. Meanwhile, me, I'm just like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. I can ask for whatever I want on my birthday. You know, let's go to Disneyland. I'm telling you, I had more trips to Disneyland than birthday parties. I'd rather spend it with the characters at Disneyland than with people. But yeah, and Sammy says, now I want to watch Ricky and the Flash again. That was a great movie, and it had Rick Springfield in it. Come on, who doesn't love Rick Springfield? Right? Right? Dr. Noah Drake from General Hospital. Oh my God, my cousin. Another person who I'm pretty sure did not make 50, who loved him, you know. But yeah, that was a great movie. Her daughter was also in it. And Audra McDonald, a very premier Broadway actress, and was it Kevin Kline? Was he the one that played the dad? Oh my God, my brain is failing me. And I almost didn't go see it. My friend Janice made me go see it with her, and I was like, oh, you know what? I like this movie. You know what? I need to watch that again too. That was a good movie. Speaking of Meryl Streep, so my dad the other night, he's all, let's watch a movie. And I'm like, all right. And he's all, have you ever seen was it Music of the Heart or Music from the Heart? Whichever it was. It was based on a true story. It starred Meryl Streep. It was from 1999, I believe. And he's like, I cannot believe you've never seen this. Great movie. Great movie. But it's about a woman who championed the arts in school, primarily children learning how to, yes, thank you. It was Kevin Kline. I love Kevin Kline. That dude's funny. But it was about a woman, a real life woman, championing the musical arts in school and in East Harlem, because she thought she just needed a job, but it turned into her passion and her purpose. And, you know, she starts out as a woman whose husband left her for another woman. And you can see I don't know the real woman's backstory on all of this, but the way she played it is, you know, she plays it so well that you can see the growth of, you know, first, you know, just being abandoned by your spouse and then having to share your children back and forth, and then learning that, you know, there was so much more in this purpose and so much that she gave. And they ended up playing in Carnegie Hall, which, by the way, is on my bucket list now. I would love to see, you know, this place and hear something. My dad said it was built for the acoustics. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I just thought it was famous because, you know, I don't know everything. Okay. But also, it got me thinking. The reason I brought that up is because it got me thinking, because that's not the first time Meryl Streep got to play at Carnegie Hall in a movie. She also played Florence Foster Jenkins. Was it Florence Foster Jenkins' older sibling? Not one of my favorite movies because it's so sad, but this is a woman who could not sing a lick of opera, but she did it anyway. She did it anyway. And I love that they made a movie out of this woman who she had a passion for something, she had a dream, and she made that dream come true. And because she was so adamant about doing it, people started to respect her for it. You know, you're always going to have that one or two detractors who are just going to say nasty and mean things and just be overly blunt because they don't get the assignment. All right. They don't understand the assignment. They think they're doing the world a favor by pointing out the obvious. But it was, when I think back on it now, it really was an incredible story of resilience and just saying, hey, you know what? Because she didn't see, she didn't know. And if she did know, she didn't admit it, but she just did what she loved to do. And she didn't care. And she was dying. You know, she had a disease that eventually would take her out. And it did. But at least she accomplished her dream. So I guess the moral of the story is that don't let anybody tell you you're too old. Don't let anybody tell you you're too young. Follow your spidey instincts. Do what you want to do. And instead of going through life with a whimper, go through life with a roar. And the older you get, you don't need to be pigeonholed. If you think you are still capable, go out and do it. Just be you. There is only one you in this world. Like I said, even if you're an identical twin, there is still only one you in this world. There is only one you who thinks and feels and lives your life the way you live it. No matter how you identify across the board, male, female, or other, don't let somebody tell you how to live your life. You know, if you stumble and you fall, pick yourself back up and figure out the next path. Figure out the journey. If the journey's not the right one, you will figure it out. Going with the flow has never been more important when you're aging. And I'm really starting to understand that now. I'm really starting to understand that sometimes you just have to trust the process. And it can be very difficult. It can be very hard. But as we get older, you know, people are going to start looking at us differently. And that's okay. I don't care if you're 80 years old and wearing concert t-shirts and leggings. And no, I don't know anybody old enough to do that yet. But hey, I'm sure there's people out there. I see men out there who are probably around my dad's age with their long beards, their long hair, their Grateful Dead t-shirts. And I'm not kidding. And they're just like, I don't fucking care. You know what? But women sometimes feel like they can't do that. And I think they should be able to do that. You go out there and do whatever you want to do. Somebody said I shouldn't have long hair because I'm a woman who's aging. And women who are aging look better with short hair. And, you know, and then I read an article about the same thing. Like, well, you know, she would look better with short hair because she's getting older, blah, blah, blah. Screw that. They also say you shouldn't have bangs. Screw it. You keep telling me something that you tell me I can't do because you're trying to pigeonhole me into something, and I'm going to do it. Okay. And not, it might be a little bit of knee jerking in there, but seriously, I think it's just at the point now where I'm just going to do what brings me joy. I'm going to do what makes me happy. You know, I promised older sibling I wouldn't cut my hair for the next year, but we'll see what happens after that. I may end up with like a pixie cut, like, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis, because every so often I love going short. I love going short, but right now I refuse to because it's taken a long time to grow all this. But I compromise with the bangs. And that may not seem like a lot to people. But there was a time when I was just growing out my hair and didn't have bangs because people said, well, you know, people your age shouldn't do that. And I'm tired of listening to what other people say. And you should be too. If you are happy doing things the way you're doing them, do it. You like I said, whatever you like to wear, wear it. There is no age limit on fashion. People may tell you there is, but there's not. There's not. Just be you. That's the best person you can be, is you. And when you live authentically and when you live the way you want to live, and, you know, whether it's, you know, going out there and riding roller coasters or going out there and, you know, just being a kid when you go walk through the gates of Disneyland, and don't worry about what other people think, because you know what? Somewhere out there, you're going to be inspiring somebody else. You know, I love when I go to amusement parks and I see older people and they're just like kids again, you know, wearing their little Mickey Mouse ears and stuff. And it's like, I love that. That's what I want to do. That's who I want to be. I don't want someone to tell me I can't do anything because I'm old. I may be 53. I'm trying to remind myself that I'm 53 because I keep forgetting. But yeah, okay, so here's what Sammy says. I was just getting ready to say what you said. Tell me not to do something because of my age or whatever reason, and I will do it just to show you that I can. Absolutely. Even if it takes me a while, I will show you I can do it because, you know, I can. You know, if that dude wants to buy himself a Ferrari at 55 years old, let him. He probably just put all his kids through school with his spouse. Or if he doesn't have a spouse, who cares? Just let him enjoy it. That's his thing. Or her thing. Because I know women who go out there and buy sports cars when they hit a certain age. Just let them be who they want to be. Don't sit there and make fun of them. And don't sit there and, you know, whatever this or whatever that them. Just, they're confident. They're happy. They're joyful. Sometimes they do it for the wrong reason because they want to feel young. But most of the time, I think it's a bucket list thing for them. You know, I mean, my bucket list is weird. But I mean, I literally want to find a wooden escalator, which apparently are hard to find now. But anyways, all right. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much for popping on. Older sibling, Muddy. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Thank you, older sibling, for staying awake. And again, please send her good vibes because I know she's been hurting. But I will see everybody back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelley Marie Lucas. And you can find me across the social media board, starting on YouTube and TikTok from there on out. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you again so much, both of you, for all your comments, all your thanks. Again, my sincerest apologies to Dame Judi Dench. My apologies, but I'm glad you're still with us because I love you. I love you. Hearts, super hearts. So anyways, have a great day.